Oh my god. Hey guys, what the fuck is up, you guys? My name is emandan642 and welcome to the third video in the Metal Gear Solid series. This is Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. When going into this game, I knew it was going to be good, but holy shit, this game is fantastic. I really enjoyed the first two Metal Gear Solid games, and for what I've heard, Snake Eater was the pinnacle of the series. This game is top tier. In terms of story, gameplay, characters, this game has it all. Snake Eater is a prequel to the Metal Gear Solid series, taking place in 1964. This is the first game in the Metal Gear timeline. This is where everything started. This game very nicely tells how everything came to be in the series. The snakes, the Metal Gears, Ocelot, everything. To make a prequel to such a story-heavy game is no easy feat. But this game makes it believable as well as compelling. This game tells the story of Naked Snake. I'm going to spoil something here, if it really counts as spoilers. This is the origin story of Big Boss. I mean, it's pretty obvious that Naked Snake is Big Boss. Who else would Naked be? Anyway, this is where we see how he went from being the good guy to the villain that we see later on. Snake Eater is split into two missions, Virtuous Mission and Snake Eater. Snake is an operative working for Fox. The first mission, Virtuous Mission, no, not virtual mission, Virtuous Mission, is a simple mission to extract the scientist Sokolov, who is in captivity in the Soviet Union, and they're using him for bad things, of course. Snake is also supposed to take down the Shagohod, a super weapon tank. Basically, this game's Metal Gear, and what Sokolov has been designing. Sons of Liberty was a massive upgrade to Metal Gear Solid 1. I'm talking about gameplay here first, since the story is its own beast. Snake Eater expands upon the combat, action, and exploration of the previous games even more. Controlling Snake is largely the same, but the action felt more fluid. You spend a majority of the game in the jungle, so stealth is a lot different than indoors. It's easier sneaking outside, but to compensate, the game has a lot of added difficulty that I really enjoy. There is no radar minimap showing where enemies are. You have a sonar and a motion detector that won't always be helpful. That also makes sense since this is 1964 and technology was very limited at the time. Since you are in the jungle, you could hide and sneak around much easier, but spotting enemies is much harder. The game emphasizes CQC, or Close Quarters Combat, which is an expansion of the previous game's combat. Now you could easily take out enemies without shooting them. While doing CQC, you can throat slit them or interrogate them, but body slamming enemies to the ground was the most useful, knocking them out instantly. A large part of the game while sneaking around is your camouflage. You can change the clothes you wear and your face paint to closely match your surroundings. This can work really well and is really cool. Most of the time you use the standard camo jungle, but at times it's greatly useful to use others. You don't need to use any, but it's certainly helpful. The only times that you absolutely need it is where you are in the indoor facilities. You have clothes matching whatever workers are in the place, and you even have a suit and mask of a specific person resembling another important character that people were not too fond of at the time. The only problem with the camo is that sometimes you could easily cheese the game. Sometimes you can be right in front of an enemy, but as long as you have the right camo and are laying down, they won't see you at all. Then again, they may stand there for 5 seconds, then notice you. The AI can be a bit dumb at times, but most of the game it was fine. Challenging even. Another really important aspect of the game is the stamina meter. In previous games, you restore health by eating rations. In this game, there are no rations. The only food that you get is various animals you find in the jungle, like snakes, frogs, and rats. Any food you eat won't heal your health bar, but instead your stamina bar. Your health bar will fill up over time depending on how much stamina you have. The more stamina, the faster health regains. I really like this concept. You may think that it's really hard to play, but it's not. The game is designed really well around this. Food is really easy to find. You should have no problem finding animals in whatever area you are at. Unlike the previous games, food is abundant everywhere. Your health will also replenish when you aren't playing, so coming to the game after a while, you will have full health. But that has some consequences. Food will rot over time, and if it's rotten, you will get a stomachache. This makes the game very balanced and fair. That also makes sense because all the food you find is raw animals and is not cooked, except the few packs of ramen and calorie mates you get in the game. Another cool aspect of the game is the cure system. So in the game there are consequences. You can get injured, not just lose health and stamina, but you can have injuries that you need to heal. Injuries like cuts, gunshot wounds, burns, or broken bones. They aren't all that complex. You just use whatever tools needed to cure the injuries. It added another layer to the already complex gameplay that makes you think before you act. You can't just run into danger or else you will face the consequences, especially since you have limited supplies. Speaking of limited supplies, ammo is a lot more sparse in this game. There are plenty of weapons, but if you don't want to kill, there's only the tranquilizer pistol and rifle. You can't just shoot willy-nilly or you'll run out of ammo. And the suppressor will wear off with too many shots, and that's a big issue. You can get more suppressors, but they're practically needed in the game. The gameplay of the game is phenomenal, and for a game that is so story heavy, the gameplay is just as in-depth. He's naked. That's the joke. He's naked. Okay, so during the Virtuous mission, Snake is being accompanied by Major Zero, who is this game's Colonel Campbell, as well as Paramedic, your medical advisor, and Sigint, your weapons expert, who is also Donald Anderson from the first game, and the boss, Snake's old mentor and partner on the battlefield, and somewhat mother figure, who Snake reunites with after years. Snake infiltrates the abandoned warehouse where Sokolov is being held at, but is ambushed by Revolver Ocelot, the leader of the Ocelot unit. Ocelot is just as awesome as a character as always. Also, fun fact, he is the only character to appear in all 5 Metal Gear Solid games. This is a much younger Ocelot, a less mature Ocelot, or so it seems. He isn't really a true villain in the game, honestly. He is more of an anti-hero per se. He is on the enemy's side and certainly isn't the best dude around, as we see, but throughout the game, Snake and Ocelot have this brotherly rivalry every time they fight. Both Snake and Ocelot learn a lot from each other, which I really like. Especially Ocelot. He learns a lot from Snake. Stuff we see in the later games. Snake knocks out Ocelot and escapes. Snake then runs into the boss, who isn't supposed to be there? She states that she is defecting to the Soviet Union and will be fighting for them. The boss is an American hero, so this is quite the surprise to Snake. We are introduced to Volgin, a group colonel who has the ability to conduct electricity through his body. We're also introduced to the boss's unit, the Cobras, which includes the Pain, the Fear, the End, and the Fury, who isn't there. The boss then breaks Snake's arm and throws him off the bridge. Volgin then nukes a Russian base. This moment plays a huge part in the game. Snake sees to his injuries, then he is picked up and put into care. 1 week later, Snake has a new mission, the Snake Eater mission. After Volgin launched that nuke before, the Soviet Union suspected that the US was responsible, and as we know, it was not. So Snake has... Shut up! So Snake has a few missions. Oh my god. Shut up! So Snake has a few missions. Rescue Sokolov again, destroy the Shagohod, and kill the boss. Snake has the help of 2 spies who are there to give Snake information. They are codenamed Adam and Eva. Snake heads to the spot where he's supposed to meet with Adam, but he doesn't show up. He meets with Eva instead, who tells him that she will be helping Snake during the rest of the mission. The next day, they are ambushed by Ocelot. The boss fight with Ocelot is just a simple shootout, just like the one in Metal Gear Solid 1. I like how this is the first boss fight. With a game series as purposely repetitive as Metal Gear Solid, this was the perfect boss fight to start the game. The only problem was this fight was annoying as hell. Not for any reasons with the actual game. You see, I played the HD collection on the PS4, and since you can't download PS3 games on PS Now, I had to stream the game. And my internet is awful. And it's even more awful in my basement. So streaming this game was a pain in the ass. It was mostly okay aside from the occasional drops in quality, but this fight was graphically intense with all the wind and sandstorm effects, so it lagged a lot. But anyway, the fight was pretty easy and fun, but oh no, the pain shows up. Snake is attacked by the Pain's horde of hornets, then jumps into the river below and ends up in a cave. I really like this part of the game. Well, it was kind of annoying because you could barely see, and without the torch, the cave is a pain in the ass to navigate. Even with the torch it is. This is a pretty short segment of the game, but I like the difference in gameplay here. There is more of a focus on the exploration and survival aspects of the game, rather than the stealth and action. So you make your way through the cave and meet up with the Pain. The first are the Cobras that you will face. If you have played any of the Metal Gear Solid games, you would know that many of the villains are very over the top, and the Cobras are no different. The Pain has the ability to control a horde of hornets. It's weird, but the Pain is a cool character, so whatever. His fight is pretty simple. I used smoke grenades to distract the hornets and then tranked him. It was a pretty simple but good fight. Like Sons of Liberty, all the bosses have health and stamina meters. Like the god gamer I am, I tranked all the bosses. Even though I only deplenish the stamina, the Pain explodes and dies. Another issue I have with the Metal Gear Solid games is many of the villains don't get enough screen time. The main villains, like in this game, the boss, Volgin, and Ocelot get plenty of screen time, but the lesser characters, like the rest of the Cobras, don't. I know they are lesser characters and, in the context of the story, are used as expendable forces that don't matter, but I still wish I could see them more. Anyway, Snake leaves the cave and makes his way into Granon's research facility. This is the part I mentioned earlier where you have to wear a scientist outfit so you can infiltrate the facility, mostly undetected. You meet up with Granon, who was a weapons designer for the Soviet Union until he lost his job to Sokolov and his Shagohod. Granon was the original designer of Metal Gear, but his ideas would not be used until years later. Granon is completely drunk, and out of spite and drunkenness, he gives Snake information on where the Shagohod is and how to destroy it. Snake meets with the Fear, the second of the Cobras. This boss fight was a pain. Well, at first it was. Most Metal Gear Solid bosses, from Sons of Liberty onward, there are plenty of ways of beating them, and I really like that, but sometimes Metal Gear Solid bosses can be a pain. I figured out that you needed to replenish his food supply so he couldn't heal, but it took me so long to be able to do it. Then, after like 2 hours of trying, I just got him to eat a poisonous mushroom and I beat him in like 5 minutes. Metal Gear Solid bosses are weird like that. They could be super hard unless you find a really easy solution. And speaking of really easy solutions, after you defeat the Fear, like 5 minutes later, you fight the End. The End is over 100 years old and is basically the greatest sniper in the world. He uses photosynthesis to live so long. It allows him to sleep for extended periods of time and be completely fine. I really like the End. I think he's a really interesting character. I really wish we saw more of him, more than anyone else. His fight was pretty good. Finding him was hard, but once you do, I just shot him, and once he got away, I followed his footprints and shot him again. He was pretty easy once I was able to catch him. After you defeat the End, you scale some mountains and meet up with Eva again. You navigate through a underground passageway in order to infiltrate the heavily guarded Groznygrad. You fight the last of the Cobras, the Fury. The Fury was an alright character and boss. All of the other Cobras were shown to us before, but this is the first time we see the Fury. This fight was kind of annoying. It started out alright, but once you got him down to half stamina, he went completely sicko mode on your ass, and it was impossible to hit. I was able to cheese the fight by wearing all black camo and hiding in the exit door. And when he was in sight, I got him. It took a bit, but it worked. I only got caught on fire a few times. That was the last of the Cobras. The bosses so far are weirdly paced. You fight Ocelot a decent way into the game, then almost immediately after, you fight the Pain. After a while, you fight the Fear, and practically right after, you fight the End. Then a bit after, you fight the Fury. And after that is near the end of the game, where you fight a ton more bosses, which is expected, but I don't really like how oddly paced the bosses were to each other for the first half of the game. Anyway, after the Fury boss fight, you make your way into Groznygrad to extract Sokolov. You have to enter the building in the scientist uniform like before, but to get to the left wing, you have to steal the uniform from this familiar looking character. Kinda sus. After stealing the uniform and face from Rykov, Snake locates Sokolov. You know the drill. Spoilers. Ow! The spoiler section won't take up half the fucking video like the Sons of Liberty review, but as you can see, it will definitely be a long one. Volgin comes into the cell with Sokolov and Snake. Suspicion of Rykov, Volgin grabs Snake's snake and figures out that Rykov is an imposter. It is confirmed in a codec call that Volgin had an affair with Rykov, which is so fucking funny. This big ass sadistic brute is fucking gay. So Volgin knocks out Snake and he wakes up in a torture room. There's no torture sequence like there was in the first two games, sadly. Volgin beats Sokolov to death, then tortures Snake. In the first two games, there was a clear villain. They were both snakes, being Liquid and Solidus. But in this game, it's not as clear. Volgin seems to be the main villain, and to an extent he is, but he seems to be merely a pawn. What about the boss? But she can't be. It's really hard to say for sure. I guess we'll just have to see. Ocelot accidentally shoots Snake's eye, the origin of the iconic eye patch. Ocelot puts a transmitter on Snake and the boss shoots Snake in the leg. Wow, that was a lot. The cell is guarded by one man, Johnny, who is the grandfather of the Johnny that we see in Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2. And just like that Johnny, he has diarrhea problems. There is an actual cutscene with Snake and Johnny. I really love the attention to detail in this game. So Snake breaks out and attempts to escape through the sewers. He is cornered by Ocelot but jumps into the river below like a badass. Snake nearly dies and meets the Sorrow, a secret member of the Cobra unit. The Sorrow was the boss's lover but was killed by her in World War II due to them being on opposing sides. This isn't really a boss fight even though it's presented as one. Snake just walks through this river area while all the ghosts of the people you've killed appeared. I like how killing people actually have consequences in this game. In other video games, there's no issue with killing people. But this game, you can't just go around killing everyone in your way. That would definitely make the game a lot easier, but you can't. So Snake dies, kinda, and after taking the revival pill, he wakes up from his near-death experience. Snake infiltrates Groznygrad again and plants C3s on the Shagohod. He is caught by Volgin and the two fight. Volgin's fight was surprisingly not that hard. The 10-minute timer made it a bit more tense, but I still beat him very quickly. It was just an intense CQC test. Snake escapes with Eva and the C3s explode, not destroying the Shagohod, but heavily damaging it. Volgin chases Snake and Eva using the Shagohod. This chase scene is pretty fun, but it'll pretty much play out for you. If you don't do anything, you will lose some health, and that's about it. Snake blows up the bridge with the Shagohod on it, but it's not done yet. Volgin powers the Shagohod with his own electric abilities. You face him one last time. This fight is pretty fun. I honestly like the Rex fight from Metal Gear Solid 1 and the 9 Rays from Metal Gear Solid 2 better, but this one is still really fun. It was sometimes annoying to hit the Shagohod, then hit Volgin in time, but I was able to do it. Volgin, along with the Shagohod, blow up. Snake and Eva escape while still being chased. Snake meets up with the boss for one final battle. This is the same kind of fight as the one with Liquid from MGS1 and Solidus from MGS2, except this one is very emotionally heavy. Snake does not want to kill the boss, but he has to. She was a mentor to him, a mother to him, but this is Snake's mission and he has to. And the boss knows that. The fight is very good, using all of your skills that you have learned thus far, and under a 10-minute time limit. This fight is very tense, both because the actual fight and the time limit, but also the emotional part of it. This is a big moment for Snake. So Snake beats the boss and is forced to kill her. This moment right here is the saddest and heaviest moment of the game. The boss gives Snake the Philosopher's Legacy, which is an item heavily sought after by everyone in the game, and is worth an insane amount of money. Then Snake kills the boss. Snake and Eva escape, again, and of course, Ocelot boards the plane and has one final duel with Snake. There are 4 outcomes to this duel. I got the Snake wins outcome, but it didn't matter anyway since the bullet was a blank. Ocelot reveals his real name to Snake. Adamska, then bids Snake goodbye and jumps out of the plane. Ocelot is a great character, a very respectable character. He is just as cool young as he is old. Snake and Eva land on a designated area in Alaska. The next morning, Eva runs away, leaving a tape she made. She reveals that she was a spy for the Chinese government who was just looking for the Philosopher's Legacy. But the legacy that she took was a fake, and the one that the boss gave Snake was the real thing. She reveals that the CIA was after the legacy the whole time. The boss never actually defected. She was still working for the CIA, and was just trying to get the legacy. She was supposed to get the legacy and bring it back home, but everything went wrong when Volgin shot the nuke at the end of the Virtuous mission. The CIA had to kill her to prove their own innocence. Even though the boss was a national hero, one who played a very important role in World War II, and as the first person in space, the US had to kill her for their own benefit. Even in the events of Virtuous Mission and Snake Eater, she helped out the US, even though she very knowingly was being used by them. She was a war hero who was just cast aside for the benefit of the US. To America, she was a despicable traitor with no sense of honor. To Russia, as a monster who unleashed a nuclear catastrophe. The boss was the true hero of the game. Her sacrifice is one I've never seen in any other character. In a series that has such a heavy emphasis on legacy, what you do with your life, and how you are remembered, it makes her sacrifice all the more terrible. She was used by the people and the country that she served for her entire life. Even knowing that this would be her final mission, she saw it through to the end, like a true soldier. The boss was an amazing yet so tragic character, one that will have a lasting impact on Snake as well as the Metal Gear Solid series forever. Snake is doomed to know the real tragedy of what happened and is rewarded for doing the US's dirty work. Snake is given a medal, named a National War Hero, and is awarded the name of Big Boss. This game is a masterpiece. A game like no other. I love games with sad endings, endings that add a sense of weight to the protagonist. Games like Professor Layton and the Unknown Future and Mother 3, and this game does it perfectly. There is a lot to unpack in this game, but I think I've done enough of that. I really like how a lot of this game is up for speculation. Like Ocelot. It's never revealed, but it's heavily implied that Ocelot is the son of the boss and the Sorrow, and that Ocelot could have been the Adam who never showed up in the beginning of the game. I mean, since his name is Adamska, and since he did show up the next morning. Also Volgin. Maybe the US planned on Volgin firing that nuke. Anyway, you can't say for sure. There's a lot of loose ends that aren't fully explained. Also, I want to mention the ending song, Wait to Fall. It's such a great song. On its own, it's a great acoustic ballad, but in the context of the game, the song represents the boss talking to Big Boss, as well as Big Boss talking to his sons, Solid and Liquid. It's a fantastic song that perfectly ends this perfect game. Snake Eater is a fantastic game that perfectly balances enriching gameplay and story at the same time. I love how complex and multi-layered this game is, and I love how well it sets up everything that happens later on. This is a near perfect game that kept me engaged and hooked the entire time. I'm going to give Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater a 10 out of 10. You don't need to have played Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 to play this game, but I highly recommend playing those games first. They are built onto each other, leading to this masterpiece. This has been Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater